Video we're going to be looking at while loops. So what does Cambridge say about while loops? They say you need to understand and use the concept of iteration. Now if you remember, iteration just means to repeat, and while loop is a form of repeating, so that is what Cambridge says about while loops. Now there are three different types of iteration in programming. We have the first type, the count control loop, which is the for loop, which we looked at in a previous video. If you can't remember that, you can go back and look at it. We have the post condition loop, which doesn't actually exist in Python, but we will be looking at it in pseudocode later on. And then we have the one we're doing today, which is the count control loop, which is otherwise known as the while loop. So let's take a closer look at what it is. So I have an example of it here written or drawn in a flowchart. And if you look, we've set a variable and we've named it again. And we've given it the value of the word yes. And then we have a decision box here. And it's asking the question, does again equal yes? If then does equal yes, we go this way. If it doesn't, we go that way. Well, in this case, because we set it to the value of yes, we go along the yes strand. Then we output the word hello, ask the question, do you want to loop again? And we go back around. So we'll obviously, when we ask this question, do you want to loop again? You're either going to answer yes or no. So then when we loop back around, we come back to the question. Depending what we've answered to this question will depend whether we go down here to finish the loop or we go along here to stay in the loop. Now, if we just keep putting yes or keep writing yes, we will just keep going through the loop and this will literally go forever. Okay, that could last it could be an infinite loop if you just kept writing the word yes into the answer for this question. Anything other than yes will cause the loop to stop. Now, this loop, if we change the value when we made it and didn't make it yes, we made it no, and then we came to this question, this loop would not happen at all. Right? So the while loop is the only loop that may never happen. Okay, if you're doing any of the other two, if I'm looking at the for loop, the count control loop, it will do it how many times I say in the count. And if I do the repeat until, that will always repeat or at least do one iteration of the loop. Where the while loop may never ever happen depending what you set the value to. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm just going to rub this out and we'll go to Python and we'll code this flowchart here. So if I type in idle, and we open up Python and we file and new file, and then we'll save it straight away and we'll call it while loops. Okay, so let's put these side by side so we can see them. And remember, we're just going to simply code what is in the flowchart we just looked at. So the first thing we need to do is create the variable and give it the value of yes. So again is equal to yes. And then we're going to go straight into the loop here using the question, and we're going to be asking, or we're going to be doing something while again is equal to yes. So we use while because it's a while loop. And then we say while again is equal to, so remember that's two equals and the value yes. And then we're going to put the colon, right? Now the colon, remember, it's just the same as writing the word do. In pseudocode we would write the word do, in Python we put a colon. So we're saying while again is equal to yes, do the following. And when I press return, you'll see that it's automatically indented. Remember, leave the indentation there because we need it in Python. And then we're just going to put, if you follow around along the yes, it says output hello. In Python that's print, and then hello. And then here it says, do you want to loop again? So this is a question, which means we're going to have to allow the user to input something. And we're going to use the same variable as before, again. So we're going to say, again is equal to input, and then ask the question, do you want to loop again? And then we can run this now. If you're on a laptop, it's function F5. If you're just on a PC, just F5. And then you can see the first loop has happened. That's this bit here. And then it's asking the question, do you want to loop again? If I write yes, it should just say hello again and ask me again. And no matter how many times I do that, it will just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It will constantly do that no matter how many times I put it, because it's sticking to the value yes. If I write no here, you'll see nothing happens. Okay, there's nothing happening. We've actually left the loop here, but just to show you, if I put just a little bit at the end of this code outside of the loop, if I print loop has finished, and then function F5 again to run, you'll see it's saying hello, do you want to loop again? If I write no, it will go straight, finish it, and say loop has finished. And you can see if I keep writing yes, when the program runs again, it still works the same. If I write no, it finishes. Okay, so that is a for loop, but let's have a look at a couple more examples just to make sure we get it properly. And if we have a look at this one, and I just want to write a quick program that will output totals until we reach 100. So I'm gonna set a value to 0, and then I'm gonna ask someone to input a value. We're gonna add those two values together, and then once it gets to 100, it will stop. Now at night, it might not stop at 100. It might be slightly above, depending what we plus to it. But once it hits 100 or above 100, it will stop and output the answer. Okay, so let's just get rid of the code we just wrote. Remember, if I just pull this to the side so you can see what we're doing, and we will use some operators and some logical operators to do it. So if we quickly go over these, just to remind you, but we did do them in class. We have the one that we've already used today, double equals, is testing something's equal to. Exclamation point equals is testing if it's not equal to. Crocodile mouth pointing right is greater than, left less than, and then the crocodile mouths with the equal sign next to them are greater than or equals to or less than and equals to. And we also have our Boolean operators as well, our logical operators and or. Okay, so let's get into this program. So we're just going to set a value of 0, and then we're going to get a user to input it. So let's put this as comments inside of the code so we can see what it's doing. So we're going to set a value to 0, and then we are going to ask user to input a number, and then we are going to add the number, and when we get to 100, stop. So that's what we're going to do here. So first of all, we'll set a count, and we'll make it equal to 0. And then we're going to go straight into the while loop. While count is, let's say, less than 100, do the following, and we'll say number, or let's say num is equal to int. Remember, we're using int this time because it's an integer we need because we want to do maths with it. Int input, and then what we want to output to tell the user what to input. So let's say enter a number to add to the count. And then remember, I've opened 2 brackets here, so I need to close 2 brackets here. Okay, and then I'm going to say count is equal to count, because I want the value that count already is, and then plus num. So every time I enter a num, it's going to add it to what the count already is. And then finally, I'm going to print let's say the total is, and then put count. Okay, so you can see the total is in speech marks because I literally want to say it, and the count is out of speech marks because I want the value of whatever the count is here. So let's run that and see what we get. So enter a number to add to the count. So if I add 40 here, and then if I add, let's say 61, it should output at the bottom 101. Okay, so if I quickly run that again, and we can add it with some smaller numbers just to show, if I add 1, and it will keep adding 1 to the total, and it will keep adding until I reach above 100, and this time it was 142. Okay, so that, you can see we've set the value of count to 0. We've said while count is below 100, do the following. We set an input to enter a number using the word int input. Then we've added 1 to the number to the count. So whatever this number was, we've added to the count. And then when it's reached 100, we've outputted the count. Okay, let's have a look at another one. So if we look at this here, so we've got here, write a program that does the following: sets a variable called username and has a value of your name. Sets a variable called password that has a value of password 1234. Uses a user input to ask the user for their username and password. While they don't match, say it's wrong, and output some type of message to say it's invalid, please re-enter. If it's correct, you can say welcome. All right, so let's have a look here. And again, we'll write it as comments of what we need to do. And whenever you get a problem that's reasonably big like this, if we put this side by side, actually, I think it will work better. So if we put that here and this here. So we've got the tasks. Maybe make this a little bit smaller if I can. We've got the tasks here, and we can, yeah, that should help. I'll just delete this, and we'll use a comment again just to write what we're going to do here. Now remember, when you've got a reasonably big task like this, it's always best to write in your own words what it wants you to do. So we're going to set a variable as my name, and then we're going to set a variable as password 1234. Then we're going to ask the user to input both their name, both name and password. Well, they don't match. when they do, output welcome. Okay, so first of all, we're going to set the, remember this task here, it has username here, and we're going to use that as a variable. So we're going to say username is equal to, and then remember you can use your name if you want, I'm just going to use mine. And then we're going to set a password and make it equal to password 1234, and then we can go straight into the inputs and asking the user to input their inputs and checking to see if it's right. So I'm going to make a variable, I'm going to call it loop, and I'm going to make this equal to true. Now notice I haven't used speech marks here because true is a boolean value, so I don't need it to have speech marks around it. It is a data type in itself. And then I'm going to say while loop is equal to true, do the following. Now we can say enter name is equal to input. This is the user entering their name, and then give a message to say enter your user, and then we can have enter password, just call enter pass is equal to input, and then a message to say enter password. And now we can use an if statement here. We can say if enter name is equal to username and enter pass is equal to password, then do the following. Loop is equal to false. So you can see if these match, the loop's going to end to false, and then hopefully the while loop will stop because the loop is not equal to true anymore. Else print username or password is incorrect. Please try again. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this first. I'll just make this bigger so we can see it, and we'll just go over it. So notice some things to look at here. I've got username here, and look, I've spelled it the same way in the if statement, and I've got password here, and it's spelled the same way in the if statement. I have enter name here, it's the same in the if statement. I have enter pass here, it's the same in the if statement. So let's run this, and hopefully it will work. Oh, and you see I've got an error here, and it says error name loop is not defined. So let's have a look and see what we've got here. So we've got loop is, you see here, I've put 2 equals, my mistake, typing mistake there. So I'll just get rid of that first equals, and I've set the value to true here. Now let's run that again and enter username. So Chris, enter password. I'll just make something up here, and you can see it says it's incorrect. Please try again. This time I will get my name wrong, but I will get the password right. You can see it's still wrong. Then this time Chris and password 1234, and you can see, oh, and it still says name or password is incorrect. Try again. Let's have a look at my code, see if I've made a mistake here. Let's see. Let's change this to O, and let's try that again. Enter username. Oh, wrong one. Chris, and then we enter the password wrong. You can see that doesn't work. Then we'll do it the other way around. We'll enter my name wrong, but we'll put the password right. Password 1234. You can see. Oh, and it's ended there. Let's have a look. See here. I see what's happened here. I haven't printed anything out of the loop. Print. Welcome. Let's have another look at this then. So we've got loop equals true, while loop is equal to true, enter name, enter password, if enter name is equal to username, and enter password, enter pass is equal to password, loop is equal to false. It should enter welcome here. Let's run it and just test it just in case. So name, we'll make that wrong, and the password right. And then we'll try the name right, Chris, and then the password wrong. And then we'll try both right. You can see here, all this time when I've been doing that, it's because I put Chris with a capital C here, and my code has Chris as a capital, with a small c. So let's try that again. Chris with a capital C. Chris and the password 1234, and there you can see welcome. Okay, so remember, don't make the mistake I did there. I've set Chris to a capital C here, and then when I typed it in, I put it with a small c. To avoid that problem, we could use the user name dot lower, and that will just change. And if I show you here, print username, I won't run this code all the way through. I'll just show you what this does, and you'll see that it prints out this code. Let me try and run this again because I can't see that at the bottom. So if I say print, so if I say username, username is equal to username.lower, and then run that. See here, it changes my name to lower. So if I was to do what I did before and type in Chris and then password 1234, it will work straight away because I use the .lower command to make the username all lowercase. Okay, I think we stop that video there because it's quite long, and have a look at the challenges and the tasks on the class website. If you've got any problems, you can come and see me.